They say you can always tell when something is alive. A tree in the wind, a bird in flight, a child taking a breath. But what if that certainty is an illusion? What if life isn't a thing at all, but a temporary pattern? A flicker in the chaos of the universe that mistakes itself for meaning. Before we can understand death, creation, or even consciousness, we must first ask the oldest question of all. What is life? The obvious mystery. Life feels obvious. You recognize it instantly. The pulse of motion, the exchange of breath, the spark of reaction. Yet, beneath that surface, the certainty begins to dissolve. A rock, a flame, a cloud. They move, change, and follow the same laws of physics as you do. So why do we call you alive and them not? Since the first philosophers looked into the stars, we've tried to draw that line. Aristotle called life the presence of a soul, an inner motion of purpose. Centuries later, science replaced souls with chemistry, energy, and evolution. But the question never truly went away. We simply gave it new names. Because even now, with microscopes and supercomputers, we can't answer with confidence what separates living from non-living. Maybe the problem isn't that we haven't looked closely enough, but that we've been asking the wrong question. Defying chaos. In the 1940s, physicist Erwin Schrödinger tried to define life from the laws of thermodynamics. Everything in the universe tends toward disorder, entropy, decay, chaos. Left alone, order dissolves, rooms grow messy, energy spreads, stars burn out. But life, somehow, fights back. Living things build walls, regulate themselves, and preserve internal order against the chaos of the cosmos. Cells repair, divide, and balance, tiny rebellions against the law of decay. Schrödinger called this the secret of life, the ability to feed on negative entropy, to resist the inevitable slide into disorder. But if that's true, then a refrigerator or a hurricane, both local pockets of order, are they alive too? If resisting entropy defines life, then the boundary blurs again. Life, it seems, is not defined by what it is, but by what it does, to preserve pattern in a universe that wants to erase it. The machinery of being. Every living thing we know is built from cells, tiny worlds of complexity, each one a factory of molecules, engines, and chemical messengers working in perfect coordination. Yet none of these pieces, the proteins, the DNA, the lipids, are alive on their own. They are just matter obeying physics, bumping and reacting. And somehow, from their interaction, life emerges. No soul, no spark, just chemistry organized in astonishing patterns. A cell eats, grows, heals, and divides, not because it wants to, but because the structure itself allows it to persist. So maybe life is not a thing, but a process, an arrangement that creates its own continuity. You and I are not solid beings. We are self-maintaining patterns of atoms, constantly replaced, never identical, yet somehow continuous enough to call me. The language of life. At the center of every cell lies a story, written in an alphabet of 4 letters, A, T, C, and G. DNA, the molecule of memory. It doesn't move, think, or desire, yet its arrangement encodes the instructions for building everything alive. From bacteria to blue whales, the difference is not in the material, it's in the information. Life, perhaps, is information that preserves and copies itself. The DNA molecule is not alive, but the pattern it carries is, because it continues, replicates, mutates, and evolves. Some scientists now see life as a pattern of information that resists being lost to time. In this view, a living organism is simply the universe's way of storing data about how to remain stable in an unstable world. You are not made of matter, you are made of instructions. The rule breakers, and then come the troublemakers, viruses. They sit perfectly between life and death, a genetic script wrapped in a protein shell. On their own, they do nothing. But once they invade a living cell, they hijack it completely, forcing it to make more of them. They replicate, adapt, and evolve, but do not breathe, metabolize, or think. So are they alive? Some say yes, they evolve. Others say no, they cannot exist without hosts. The truth is more unsettling. They exist in the gray zone, proof that life is not a binary, but a spectrum. There are things half alive and half not, and we are all, perhaps, a little bit of both. The ghosts within us. Inside every human cell lives a remnant of a once independent life form, mitochondria. Billions of years ago, they were free-living bacteria that merged with another cell in a moment of cosmic luck. The partnership became permanent. They provide energy. We give them protection. Over time, they surrendered their freedom, keeping only fragments of their DNA. They traded individuality for survival. So within you lives the echo of an ancient creature, no longer alive in its own right, yet still burning with the spark it once owned. If life can merge, surrender, and transform, what does that say about the permanence of being? Perhaps alive and dead are not opposites, but points on a cycle of transformation. The information that dreams. Maybe life's real secret isn't in carbon or chemistry, but in the way information arranges itself to endure. DNA does it biologically. Cultures do it through language, art, and memory. And now, machines do it digitally. We've begun creating systems that learn, adapt, and reproduce code without human control. Computer viruses evolve. Algorithms self-correct. Neural networks mimic thought. If life is information that persists and changes itself, then artificial life isn't coming. It's already here. The question isn't whether machines can live. It's whether we will recognize them when they do. And when we finally call something made of silicon alive, what will that make us? The vanishing line. We like lines. We draw them everywhere, between animal and human, between mind and matter, between life and death. But every time we look closer, the line fades. Animals use tools, feel emotions, and dream. Machines learn, respond, and evolve. Viruses blur biology. Mitochondria blur ancestry. Maybe life is not something that begins or ends, but something that happens, wherever information learns to preserve itself. We aren't separate from the non-living world. We are its temporary arrangement, a whirlpool in the river of entropy, a pattern that holds shape just long enough to ask questions about itself. The living cosmos. Every atom in your body was born in a dying star. The same particles that make you also form mountains, oceans, and moons. Everything obeys the same physics. So what truly separates you from the rest of the cosmos? You are made of the same dust, just arranged in a way that briefly resists decay. If life is the universe learning to recognize itself, then maybe the cosmos has been alive all along, not as a being, but as a process. Stars are born, burn, die, and give birth again. Galaxies collide, merge, evolve, patterns persist, copy, and adapt, just like DNA. Maybe the universe itself is a kind of living system, one vast organism made of energy and change. The question that lives. So what is life? A cell's struggle against entropy? A pattern of information that persists? A self-aware illusion? Or the universe rearranging itself into consciousness, just long enough to wonder what it is? Perhaps the reason we can't define life is that life itself keeps changing. Every answer becomes outdated as the pattern evolves. Life is not a noun. It's a verb, a constant becoming. Maybe what makes us alive isn't our heartbeat, or DNA, or even thought, but the fact that we ask the question. Because in a universe of silence and decay, to wonder what life is may be the most living thing of all. Subscribe to Timeless Questions channel for more thought-provoking topic on philosophy, human nature, and the mysteries of existence.